So a little bit ago, I did a video going over the logistics in Formula 1 and covering how the equipment, the crews, the drivers, the cars, the tyres, everything is transported around the world. But I didn't go too in-depth about the cars because obviously without the car, you can't go racing. So the most important part of the Formula 1 team is probably the car. If you don't have that, you've got no hope of getting out on the track. But how are these shipped around the world? Well, the answer is not as simple as you might expect, and it very much depends on which race you're leaving and which race you are going to. So I'll go over what I mean by that in this full explainer videos of how are F1 cars shipped between countries throughout a season. So there are basically three methods in transporting Formula 1 cars. These are by road on trucks, by air in an airplane, or via the sea in a ship. So again, it depends on the races that you're leaving and the races that you're going to. So let's start with roads here. So you may well see some convoys of Formula 1 teams driving around Europe, and you won't see it in any other continent when they go racing. Obviously Formula 1 goes to North America, South America, Asia and Australia as well, but most of the races are still located in Europe, or at least around half of them are these days, and the distances between these countries are not the largest. I mean, if you overlay America or Australia onto Europe, it is around the same size as that one country, and this is like 40 countries, I mean, is in Europe these days. So because of that, and because also the road networks are very good in Europe, it's very easy to transport freight throughout the country, throughout the continent I should say, really, and also lack of border checks in Europe with the Schengen area, of course. Because of that, it's very easy to move things around. So for example, if you're going from Barcelona to Imola or the other way around, the teams will load the cars onto trucks and transport them between the races, even when going technically overseas between, I don't know, between like Austria and the UK. Those races are normally back to back these days. It's a relatively easy thing to get across, whether it's on a ferry or through the Channel Tunnel between France and England. And there's a lot of equipment to get across, of course. So in 2020, for example, 315 trucks were used by the 10 teams, Pirelli, Formula 1 and all the other dignitaries to do with the sport to transport the cars and equipment across the European continent. But what about when you leave Europe? Because a lot of races these days are in North America, in Asia. You know, there's got 3 races in the United States, for example. Well, transportation by the air in these circumstances is necessary, especially when the distances are very large and the time gaps are not very large. Think about the triple header between Austin, Texas, Mexico City in Mexico, and Sao Paulo, Brazil. Even more so when you look at it after that, when it was, what was it, Las Vegas, and then going to Qatar and the UAE. We've even had the likes of Azerbaijan, Baku, and also Singapore being back to back. So when these gaps are not very big, you have to fly it by the air, because doing it via the sea would take too long. And air transport is obviously more direct as well, because with sea shipping, you have to go to a port, load everything onto it, get down to where you're going, then load everything off, and then transport it by road to the actual circuit itself. So transporting via the air is usually the method that these teams use when going outside of Europe. But there are some circumstances where they actually use the sea. Now, Pirelli is a big user of this because they know which tyres are going to need to be shipped to which countries months and months in advance. In fact, the 2025 Formula 1 calendar has already been worked out, so Pirelli will already be knowing which racers need to get these tyres by which date. They probably would have had advance warning about the calendar as well, just to help them out there. Now, shipping by the sea is a lot cheaper in general. It's probably more environmentally friendly, I would say, overall. Marginally, of course, nothing is ideal when it comes to this. So there is that net zero goal that Formula 1's always trying to get as well. But when it comes to moving the vehicles, for the most part, they don't really use the sea for this. Sometimes you might get some time gaps in the season, like for example, I mean, the summer break is in Europe, it's between the Netherlands and Belgium, so you won't need the sea for that, because, you know, they're next door to each other and you've got 4 weeks, you probably walk it, to be fair, in that time. For example, Singapore, when we had that gap of a month between Singapore and the USA, some teams may have chosen to ship their products and everything in their cars via the sea for such a long time gap. But in general, it's not really practical, because even races that potentially are not that far away from each other, Japan and China, they're normally back to back. So this is getting rarer and rarer in Formula 1 these days. But yeah, That's logistics. That is transporting Formula 1 cars around the world, and that's how the teams do it. There's a full explainer article over on the F1Chronicle.com's website as well if you want to get some more information that goes more in depth than what I was able to here. And I've already done a video as well covering logistics in general for F1, so check that out if you've not already, of course. But yeah, have a good one, guys. We'll see you very soon. Like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell as well, and we'll see you very soon, guys. Have a good one.